So I think I'm going to try and start doing this weekly, basically just a series on 4 of the biggest takeaways that I found from the NFL week. So for this week, obviously, I'll be giving my 4 biggest takeaways from week 4 of the NFL season. So first up is the fact that I think the Colts defense may be legit this year. I mean, just reading the stats, they're first in picks, yards allowed per game, passing yards per game, and yards allowed per play. They're second in points allowed and points per game, and third in rushing yards allowed, and then sixth in sacks. Now, this may be attributed to the fact that, well, they've been playing some pretty bad teams. I mean, the Jets, Vikings, and Jags have a collective 1 win. Now, I mean, that doesn't make them bad teams. I mean, the Jaguars have scored 20-plus in 2 games. The Vikings have scored 30-plus in 2 games. Jets, though, I mean, they're just a dumpster fire, but it's not really Sam Darnold's fault as much as it is, I think, the organization. Now, I think the biggest reason for this Colts defense really just starting to settle down is adding DeForest Buckner, I think, was huge. I mean, having that presence in the middle has done wonders for the Colts. I mean, they've always struggled with D-tackle. I mean, they had Al Woods for like 7 years, and he just never really panned out like they thought he would. Danico Autry's been the biggest star in recent years, but even he hasn't been fantastic. I mean, even when they had Freeney and Mathis, they struggled getting a 10 out of 10 D-tackle, and Debo really is proving to be that. I mean, he's been a big reason we have 2 safeties through 2 weeks, which hasn't happened since 1960, which is just crazy. And then, of course, obviously, you have Darius Leonard being Darius Leonard. I mean, he's all over the football field as per usual, doing better in coverage this year than he's ever done. He had a very good swat on Ryan Griffin. I mean, he was 20 yards downfield and made a play that some DBs would struggle with. So, I mean, he's been playing well. I mean, but that's to be expected. I mean, he's the fastest player to ever get to 300 tackles in only 30 games. I mean, he's unbelievable. And then you add in the fact that, I mean, the Colts really have had players step up in absence of others. With Rocky Sean being out for the last 2 games due to illness, TJ Carey has stepped in, has 2 interceptions through now. I mean, they signed him as really just a depth pick. They needed some corner depth, and now he's, I mean, delivering for what they got him. And then you throw in Xavier Rhodes, obviously, had a 2-interception game with a pick 6. And Julian Blackmon stepping in for the injured Malik Hooker. And, I mean, it really just, to me, showed in the fact that, Sam Darnold throwing those 3 interceptions was just crazy. I mean, it was just like he was seeing ghosts, one might say. I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, they were making him look just completely incompetent. I mean, he struggled in the first 2 weeks, but nothing like he did against the Colts. I mean, he had like 3 or 4 throws that I was impressed with. I mean, besides that, I mean, he was just being harassed, forcing incompletions. He was being hit in the backfield. It was crazy. So, sure, the schedule is easy, and, the Colts are known for offense, but I just think it really shows what Eberflus is doing. I mean, he's, like, redefining the culture of the Colts right now. I mean, he's showing that they can be a top contender on defense, and I really think this shows that they're a sleeper because, I mean, at the end of the day, Phillip Rivers is an experienced veteran. Jonathan Taylor's anchoring the backfield pretty well. And then you throw in, for the first time in forever, the Colts have a number 1 defense, technically. I mean, I just think the Colts really are going to be a team to watch. I think, as the season goes on, playing teams like the Bears and Packers will be bigger tests. But I'm really curious to see how they're going to do later on in the season. I know that you can probably say I'm biased because the Colts are my favorite team, but I mean, I backed it up with stats, so you can't say that, I don't think. So, yeah, don't complain. So the next takeaway is the fact that the Lions are the most confusing team in the NFL. After losing 2 games, blowing leads, might I add, they hold Kyler Murray to 3 picks and under 30 rushing yards and beat the Cardinals in an absolute upset of the year, probably so far. I mean, it just blows my mind because you look at them and there's so much going right and then so much goes wrong at the same time. And for example, they signed AP kind of on a whim after he got cut. They were like, they needed some depth. And now he's the starter, and they said they're going to roll with him over Kerryon Johnson, who just had 1,000 yards a few years ago. I mean, like, that panned out for him really well. And then you throw in the fact that Jeff Okudah, after having 2 very rough games, I mean, he killed it. I'll show his stats. I mean, he had an interception, 2 deflections, a tackle for loss. He was all over the field after getting burned by Devontae Adams in week 2. And then, I mean, TJ Hawkinson finally looking to be like the first rounder. They drafted him to be 50 yards every game, proving to be Matt Stafford's most reliable target. And I look at all that and I'm like, holy crap, they 2-1 probably. I mean, they're playing well, but then they are the Lions. I mean, they have had a lead in the first half every game this year, and then they've blown all of them except one against the Cardinals, and they had to win that game on the last second field goal. I mean, they let Mitch Trubisky, who just got benched this week because he's not good, he scored 21 in the fourth unanswered by the Lions to beat them to come back and win 27-23. They were up 14-3 on the Packers. And then they lost 42-21. Yet then they beat the undefeated Cardinals. I just have absolutely no clue how to gauge them. Because Matt Patricia, everyone seems to hate Matt Patricia. But then they look like a competent team against the Cardinals. And I really just don't know what the Lions are. I have absolutely no clue what the Lions are. I mean, this is less of my takeaway. I'm not really even giving tons of information. I'm just laying out the facts and being like, I just really have no clue if the Cardinals just played really, really, really bad or the Lions played really good. I mean, I watched the game and, the Lions definitely were the better team, but I don't know. I really just have no clue how good the Lions actually are. I mean, maybe all the signings is finally panned out, but I don't know. We're really just going to have to watch later in the season and see. So my next takeaway was that Josh Allen is going from a playoff choker to an MVP candidate. I mean, it's really amazing what he's done this year. I mean, 10 touchdowns with no picks through 3 games. He only had 10 touchdowns his rookie season playing 11 games. I mean, he's killing it. He's establishing himself in his pocket. He's making his deep throws. Now, sure, every game he has his Josh Allen moments or the sort of, the Deshaun Watson moments where both of those guys, there's 4 or 5 plays you look at every game that you're scratching your head like, why did you do that? I mean, against the Rams, it was that force to the tight end, which it was ruled an interception. I don't know really if it 100% was. I mean, their tight end came away with the ball. Regardless, he really just shouldn't have thrown that. They were up a lot, just try to take a check down there, just chew some clock off, don't force the ball downfield. That's stupid. But, besides that, I mean, he's playing fantastic. I think he's the MVP right now because they're known for their defense. Okay. I mean, that's just the Bills. The past few years, they've had a top 10 defense. Yet their defense is 24th and they're still 3-0. I mean, they are just like he's wheeling and dealing. And I mean, teams I really were not ready for it. And I think that shows because they really just don't seem to be game planning for him. I mean, their rushing attack isn't either good either. They haven't had a 100-yard rusher this year. But it just doesn't matter. He's tearing it up. I mean, going back, to his playoff. I mean, the last game he played before this season, he almost threw the ball 50 times for only 250 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, and a loss to the Texans in the playoffs. I mean, everyone was like, "Holy crap!" Was Josh Allen the wrong move? People were really starting to doubt him. And then this year, he's working to silence all the haters. I mean, he's really playing some of the best football in the NFL, and I'm just so impressed that a guy who last year was being questioned as a fringe starter now is, just killing it. I mean, unbelievable talent. And, I mean, we obviously knew he was an unbelievable talent. He's got one of the biggest arms in football. He can run, and he's huge. He has been trucking people, like, every week. But, it's just a matter of him putting it all together on the field. And, again, I think a lot of credit goes to adding Diggs. I mean, him and Diggs have been like the connection in the NFL right now. It's really opened up, especially his deep ball, having Diggs. I mean, Diggs being one of the best route runners in the football. I mean, I'd say probably in the AFC he is. His deep ball has been so much better because of having Diggs. And Diggs is a weapon now that, they have someone that can be double teamed, so it's opening up other receivers. And the Bills' offense right now is just, they're cooking. If they can figure out to get the run game going and a little more consistent pass blocking, and then again, obviously Josh Allen, playing smart, I really think they're a Super Bowl contender. Lastly, we have, I think, which is the scariest takeaway so far, and that is that COVID-19 is just sacked the Titans, so to speak. 3 players got it, 5 personnel have it, and they were forced to move all their practices online. Now, again, The game is still projected to go on Sunday against the Steelers. I'm just really curious to see, because I think this is going to be a test for the NFL. If this gets contained well, they handle this well, I think the season will be able to continue. But if this just wreaks havoc, Steelers players have it next week and Titans still have it, I really think there's a chance this could do some real damage to the fact of us having an NFL season. And that scares me, because I'm having an absolute blast with this NFL season. I mean, they just said the average points per game right now is 51 points, which is the highest average ever through 3 weeks. I mean, we are just getting such good football, and so I would really hate if COVID shut it down. But I mean, this Pittsburgh game versus Titans really will say. They say they may flex it to Monday if it really, if they need some extra time, but they haven't released any other plan besides that as of me recording this video. I'm just really hopeful that this doesn't ruin the season. So yeah, that's my video. Leave a comment talking about any of the takes I talked about. Do you think the Colts are actually a contender? Are the Lions good? I mean, your guess is as good as mine. What do you think of Josh Allen so far and the COVID situation? Be sure to leave a comment talking about it. I'll love to respond and give you my go off of that. Like the video if you could. That's pretty great. A comment, like I said, I respond to all of them, and please subscribe. That'd be pretty cool. I'm almost at 30 subscribers, so that's kind of cool. I'd really like if I could get that by the end of the week. So yeah, thanks for watching.